Hello, and welcome to the Brian Diaries, where my pals and I get together and talk about subjects dealing with our favorite tabletop role-playing setting, the World of Darkness. While we may not be subject matter experts on the game lines, we have a passion that has led us to create and share actual plays with you all. Eventually we thought, well shit, we might as well take a stab at a podcast, and here you go. Each episode we will have a guest content creator to join us to talk about whatever subject is on the table. If you'd like to contact us, you can reach out to us on Twitter at twin_cities_VTM or on Facebook at Twin Cities by Night. So here we go. I hope you enjoy. Hello everyone, welcome to the Brian Diaries. I am happy you are here, but unfortunately I have to start the show with kind of a somber note. To you listeners, all two of you, hello mom, hello grandma, I'm glad you're listening. So, my marriage is kind of on the rocks, folks. And you may be sitting there going, oh, God, why is he talking about his marriage? Why is he talking about real life stuff? We're here to talk about pretend games. Well, my wife the other day came home. I thought she was going to be gone for a few hours. Walked in and totally found me passed out with a cutout of the Starbucks mermaid and a bunch of cold brew empty cups just like all over the place. So the reason I bring this up is I'm asking Starbucks, can we officially be the cold brew sponsored podcast of World of Darkness games for you to back us? I am tired of saying that we're the unofficial cold brew sponsored Starbucks podcast. Give me some cold brew. I am ready for this. I am ready to rock. I am tired of having to be unofficial. But I suppose we should be talking about what we are here for. Today we are joined by Dixie Cochran. Hello, Dixie.
Hello.
I'd much rather call you Dixie Cyanide. I think that is so punk rock. I absolutely love that name. I wish, but we'll call you Dixie from here on out. So how are you doing, Dixie?
I'm doing well.
So for those, I'm going to have Dixie talk about herself a little bit. But for those of you who don't know, Dixie is an editor at Onyx Path, but I don't want to take up too much of her time. So Dixie, tell us about yourself. Tell us what's going on. Let us know the world know who you are.
Well, assuming the reason you had me on here is because I am the in-house developer at Onyx Path Publishing in charge of Chronicles of Darkness lines, which, used to be called New World of Darkness, if anybody's not familiar. And I'm also in charge of Exalted. I do edit most of our books at this point because they have an in-house editor now. Although I've been working with them freelance for 3 years. So if you've got a lot of things from the past 3 years, you've probably seen my name in them in the beginning, whether it's, Changeling 20th Anniversary, which I know has just been shipping, Beckett's Jihad Diary, which is shipping really soon. I think my first book was the Demon Translation Guide, so the book that lets you go between Demon the Fallen and Demon the Descent and kind of adapt your games. The Chronicle of Darkness 2nd edition. Yeah, so I've been editing books for a while. I've been a fan of White Wolf and Onyx Path products since I was, 14. So almost 2 decades at this point. So yeah, that's who I am. I'm also just a big nerd.
That's awesome. I mean, seriously, that shows your dedication to the game line. And as everyone, I'm sure everyone listening is well aware, Onyx Path is the company that really kept World of Darkness games for the longest time in the limelight. You know what I mean? Since like V20 and on, just kind of kept these games that we all know and love alive, which I think everyone in the community and the scene should be grateful for, and should give you and others that really kept them, the lifeblood flowing in them. We should really give you all the thanks for that.
Thank you. I was really glad that because I've been friends with Rose Bailey, who used to be the main in-house developer for years. So I remember talking to her around the time when CCP and White Wolf were kind of just firing everybody, and it was a whole big shakeup, and they didn't know what the future was going to be. And then when Rich Thomas came on a little while later and said, like, okay, so I bought all the licenses, and we're going to start this own company and just, keep making books. That was really, really nice, because I know that so many of us who played were like, what's going to happen? I mean, I was hanging out with Rose when I lived in Atlanta, like while they were trying to develop the MMO. I saw concept art for that and stuff, and it was really cool. And to have all that kind of just all of a sudden be like, nope, we're going to get rid of it was really, really sad. So yay, Rich Thomas for starting Onyx Path and doing all the 20th anniversary editions and second editions of Chronicles lines and everything.
I mean, and you can shine some light on this, but it has to be like a really awesome feeling to be like one of the few people in this world and life who can actually like do for a living like their hobby, like you said, you were a fan since you were like 14 and now you're working for this company. I mean, that has to be like an amazing feeling, right?
Oh God, yeah. Like I still don't believe it sometimes. I have definitely like posted things on Facebook after I like while I was editing Changeling the Dreaming 20, because I was a big Changeling fan back in the day. I remember kind of being like, if you told 15-year-old me that I'd be actually working on the 20th anniversary edition of this book, I'd be like, whatever. Like I didn't I didn't intend to go into editing when I was 15. Like it wasn't until I was a little older that I kind of realized it was something I was passionate about. And I mean, I thought I was going to be an artist or a musician, you know, all that stuff that you think you're going to be when you're younger. And I kind of settled on English major, and I thought I would be more of like a lit major or a writer. And I realized that I'm actually really passionate about editing work. And I kind of realized it, like, you know, I can talk about this more later if you want, but I realized that as I was finding typos and stuff in published books, in like bestsellers, and I was going like, how did someone not catch this? Like I could catch this. I noticed it. Come on, it's a problem. And yeah, so that's it is something that I very much care about.
So you're like a word whisperer? Is that what you're telling me? Like you're
You know, so I like to think my big joke about myself is that I'm a really good support class. Like when I played World of Warcraft for many years, I always played a healer. I've always kind of played that support class type character in games. And that's kind of how I am as a person. Like I like helping people and I like making people's work better. So I have all these brilliant writers. And to be totally fair, like you don't have to be a really amazing speller to be a good writer. Like being an evocative writer or a good writer is not dependent on your knowledge of grammar. So that's where I come in. I just come in and I take it and I polish it and, you know, make it as good as it can be.
well, that gives me hopes because those of who are listening who have especially like in our Discord or who have IM'd me know that I'm like a caveman with a keyboard. I like bang my fist against it and hope to get my point across, and people eventually learn how to interpret it. So that's really awesome. I'm glad to hear that. Again, like it's a true testament though, I think, to, you know, and you and other people who have started, you know, as fans and who now work for Onyx Path or White Wolf, who it's a true testament to your dedication and to your love of the games. And so it's people like you guys who really you know, who bring these products to fans like me and others who may be listening. Now, the next thing I'm going to bring up, and I feel really like, I don't want to sound pretentious, like I need to bring this up because Onyx Path is a successful company, but you guys have started your own podcast recently, right?
Yes. Myself, Eddie Webb, and Matthew Dawkins, who are the other two people who hold the same position I do in the company. They're just in charge of different game lines. We started the Onyx Pathcast, two months ago now? We've put out 6 episodes so far and have, you know, more on the way. We just went to weekly. We started every 2 weeks, just kind of not knowing if we could keep up with the schedule. And then we found out we were getting way ahead of ourselves. Like we'd be recording episodes and going like, oh, this won't release for like 5 weeks. Like we should probably just call it weekly and get over it. And our goal with that, like, I mean, obviously it's partially to promote our products, but our main goal with it is to let people kind of see who we are as people. Because I think that with a lot of gaming companies or with any company, the people that run it are kind of this amorphous, you know, they're in charge. I don't know anything about them. Which is why like we interviewed Rich Thomas. We were trying to do a lot of interviews, but also deep dives into like how our process works. I think we have one coming up. We're going to talk about freelancing and how you get into it and, you know, what that means and what it means to be a freelancer. Because if you look at all this, like Eddie lives in the South, Matthew lives in England, and I live in New England. Not as cool as the original England. But the fact that all of us are able to work from all over the country and from even other countries is really cool. But yeah, unless you've interacted with us at conventions, like fans of the company don't know who we are or what we do or what goes into making a book. So we thought we'd kind of, you know, throw the curtain back on that a little bit and say like, here's who we are as people, you know, like maybe you like us, maybe you don't. I keep waiting for someone to leave a comment on one of our blogs. It's like, man, that girl's really annoying, or like, man, I really don't like that British dude or something. But everybody's been really, really nice actually about the whole podcast. So
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm like all waiting like for negative comments on our stuff. And it was funny. I was listening to the Joe Rogan podcast, and he was talking to someone, and she was saying, I read the comments on an Instagram post of mine the other day, and it was really hurtful. And he's like, "You're not supposed to read the comments. You just post up, you don't go read the comments." and just let the comments is like its own little society, and you're not welcome to it. So just ignore them. Just post your stuff
Right.
and then move on. But like, yeah, I feel you. I'm the same way. I'm like, anytime a new comment, I'm all excited, but I kind of dread it a little bit that it's coming up. So,
Oh,
yeah, it's like
totally. Yeah.
I really love the idea of the podcast because, like, as a kid growing up, like my favorite segment in Sesame Street was when they showed like how they made the factories, how they made crayons, or how they made peanut butter, and
Oh
like,
my God. Yeah. I forgot about the crayon making segment on Sesame Street. I used to love that.
yeah. So that's what this is like. It's like, oh, you want to see how it works? This is how it is, and it's like it's really awesome. And then I really like I really like how you guys are bringing this forth to the public because it really like kind of scratches an itch of to see how these books come to fruition, and how all this
Yeah.
is done. And also though, and in a way, it's like you're returning to what the scene gave to you. You came from a fan, and now you have a great position on Onyx Path, and now you're showing people, and you and Matthew and Eddie are showing people how they too can get there, eventually, by, like you said, these different subjects that you're bringing up and everything like that. So I'm going to talk about that more in our next segment. But yeah, I really think that's awesome that you guys are giving back to the community like that. And that's really cool. And just kind of maybe you're inspiring the next, Dixie Cyanide or Dixie Cochran or someone with a cool punk rock name, and they can come in and maybe one day work for Onyx Path in the future. So that's pretty
Well,
awesome.
yeah. I mean, most of our writers and most of the people that work for Onyx Path were at one point fans.
Yeah.
I mean, aside from maybe people like Rich, who've been there since kind of the beginning. I mean, if you listen to, we did an interview with Ian Watson. That was, he was talking about like, yeah, I was a Trinity fan for forever, and now he's in charge of Trinity. So like it, it can happen. I mean, people that are passionate about the subject and people that care about it, it's almost more important to me than people that are really good technical writers.
Well, yeah, and and also like being on Twitter, and seeing someone like Jacob who's writing for Wraith now, or Josh Heath who's writing, and them saying, "Oh, hey, I'm writing now for this company that makes these games." It's almost I feel like I'm celebrating with them. Like it's
You,
awesome to see those little moments of happiness come
you
from.
mentioned Jacob Burgess. He did a Twitch. He's been streaming Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. It's his first time playing it. He's doing it like every 2 weeks on Tuesdays, I think. Soon.
Yeah, I think
I
you're
don't know.
right. Yeah.
I'm super excited. I popped in to watch the stream, but I also tweeted about it. And we had Craig Oxbrow and Bruce Baugh in there as well, hanging out and talking to fans. But then all of a sudden, like near the end of the stream, Justin Achilles showed up. And watching Jacob just lose his shit about that was so fun. Because it's like, it is really weird when you're a fan and then you start getting in the industry, you start meeting these people that are kind of your heroes. Like I ended up hanging out and LARPing with Luke Crane at PAX Unplugged last year. That was really weird. And freaking, oh gosh, I'm gonna forget people's names. Adam Kobler, who also does streams and Burning Wheel stuff and all that. And it's just really, really, really strange when like all of a sudden you're in it and you don't realize kind of how it happened. Even you're like, oh, I'm part of this now.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, definitely. I feel the same way on social media. If like one of our tweets get retweeted by White Wolf or someone who writes or whatever, I'm just like, you know what I mean? And like I always I'm not like one of those content creators who will like tag Onyx Path or White Wolf to try to share my personal stuff. You know what I mean? Like the
Right.
stuff that comes out. So when it's shared, it like really feels like something like, oh my god, like I'll tell all the guys in our gang, I'll send them a PM like, look, and yeah, that's behind the curtain for us. It's not that big of a deal, but yeah, I get a little excited. But that's the wonder of social media, and it's really cool to see like a scene support each other like that. So it really it's a really awesome thing to
Well,
witness.
totally. I mean, like at our heart, we're all just nerds that like to roll dice and pretend to be, vampires or werewolves or whatever. So
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was yeah, that reminds me of something I tweeted the other day. Someone was like, "Yeah, I said we should all be embarrassed. We play pretend vampires. So you know what I mean. Let's not
yeah.
like get too worried what people think. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
pretty awesome.
every time that some like once again in that Twitch stream when Jacob was like, "Oh my god, it's so cool that Dixie's here," I was like, "I'm not important. I'm just as much of a big gaming nerd as you are. Like I'm sitting here on a Tuesday night drinking wine and watching a Twitch stream. I'm not exactly living the celebrity life."
I think sometimes that's just how social media is. You know what I mean? It's like you in your own head. We're not. Most of the time you're not like physically talking or hearing someone's voice, and so you kind of like have a tendency to like kind of unintentionally, I think, put people up on a pedestal. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And you're
Oh,
like
totally.
and when you realize that when you humanize them and you realize that you're speaking to a real person or something, it's like, yeah, it takes a little get to get adjusted to, definitely, you know.
Yeah, I
So
mean, I had that moment with Rich when I went to Gen Con and met him for the first time because I never met Rich Thomas. Like I had been freelancing, but I always went through Rose. And so when I went to Gen Con and was on the booth crew for the first year and was hanging out with all these people, I was kind of like, I had a moment of intimidation, and then I was like, oh wait, we're all just big nerds, right? Cool.
definitely, that should be the model for all this. We're all just big nerds, and I think that's a good point to lead off to our first break. When we get back, oh, and before I go to my first break, we're gonna leave all where you can find like Dixie's Twitter and her different social media accounts. We'll have them in the description of the YouTube video version of this, or in the description of the podcast. You can find them if you wish to reach out to her on Twitter. Follow her on Twitter because like I said, down to earth, and you can see definitely some behind the scenes kind of stuff. So it's really awesome. And then you can also check out the Onyx Path. I can never say this. It's such a tongue twister. Onyx Path Pathcast. Am I saying that right?
Onyx Pathcast.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
just
Onyx
Pathcast.
Path. Yeah, I had too many paths. Onyx Pathcast. Check it out. You'll see like there's Onyx Path social media. You'll see Matthew Dawkins, Eddie Webb, Dixie all share it. You'll see it all over the place. You know what I mean? The Onyx Path Facebook group and all that stuff too. So check it out. It's well worth it. Subscribe to that and leave them a review, folks, on iTunes. If you, and I'm going to say this later, but if you like a podcast and you want other people to find out about it, written reviews or just reviewing period on iTunes will help that get brought out to the forefront. So, all right, we're going to hit our first break. And when we get back, we're going to be talking about editing and just editing in general for World of Darkness stuff. So stay tuned.
Hello, folks. Have you ever wished you could have an easy way to find gameplay videos and podcasts, or just media in general that deals with your favorite White Wolf role-playing games? Or have you ever wished you could find a forum to share gameplay that you have recorded, one which wouldn't be drowned out by random posts and discussion, so that your media could get the attention you want? Well, we have the answer for you in a Facebook group we run called White Wolf RPGs Gameplay and Media. The group is specifically ran with the sole intent of it being a one-stop shop for people to view or share media involving the games we all love. We take thorough steps to ensure the page does not become cluttered and is easy to traverse. We are currently over 1,000 members strong, and we are continuing to rapidly grow with new media being shared every day. Stop on by. We hope to see you there.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Before we start talking about our topic, I kind of want to give like the reasoning why not only are we having this topic of editing, but just like kind of like the mission statement why the Brian Diaries is a podcast. So one of the things that and for all those who know me, like I don't like talking about myself too much or whatever, or be compliment myself. But one of the things that I hear from people as a positive about myself is that I'm a determined person. And like if I put my my wife says this a lot too to me, like if I put my mind on a goal, I'm really determined. I don't quit. Not saying that quitting's wrong, but I really try my hardest to accomplish a goal if I have it. And I think one of the keys to my success in that is the fact that I'm a firm proponent of mental visualization. Like I'm always trying to visualize myself being successful on whatever I'm doing. Now, I don't mean like if I sit there and I close my eyes and will it, like the secret's going to happen. No, I'm not saying that. I don't mean it like that. I'm just trying to say like there's often times where like if I'm not doing anything, I'll just think in my head like a scenario, like a goal that I'm trying to accomplish. For example, for those of you who know me, have gotten to know me outside of our channel and stuff, they that I one of my hobbies, if not bigger hobby than White Wolf games, is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which for those of you who don't know, it's like pretty much it's a martial arts, but it's like freestyle collegiate wrestling with like submissions. And so I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournaments. I do them like every 2 months. And what I'll do is I'll and there's times I'll medal and there's times I won't get medals, but always to the build up, I always try to have like mental visualization of how well I will do, being successful, winning. And one of the key, you just can't sit here and you just can't close your eyes and just think I'm going to win. You got to like give yourself ammunition and data on how you'll be successful, like, so I have a tournament actually coming up next Saturday. And, when I'm sitting in traffic at a stoplight and I'm listening to music and my mind's wandering a little bit, I'll think about how my coach earlier, and this is all real stuff that's happened in the last couple of weeks, like a couple of days ago, said, hey, this is the best shape I've seen you in. I'm like, okay, that's great. And then I'll think about how, like, I'm doing against my training partners who have a certain style here. Okay, that's cool. So I'll imagine I'll do that if I'm in that situation. I just kind of like take all this data in my head and I kind of try to put it in these scenarios where I'm successful and how I will be successful and how I'll react to different things that may stop me from being successful. And I've done that from everything from my career to the actual plays that you guys watch here in the podcast, to promoting our stuff, to going to school, whatever. And so when I wanted to start the Brian Diaries, I just didn't want to have like a podcast where we just talked about the games. Nothing wrong with podcasts like that. I listen to tons of podcasts that just specifically tell us about the games, and it's great, and I love them, and they'll have a special place in my heart. But I wanted to kind of, like I said, like show a little bit how people can take information from here and do stuff. Thus the conversations we've had about like Storyteller's Vault and how to run a game on Twitch and duet gaming and different subjects that we have and will continue to have. So my point is there are a lot of people, like we spoke, Dixie was one of them, who want to work for Onyx Path or White Wolf and want to get into these companies. And for me, if I wanted to do that, that's not one of my goals, but if I wanted that, I want as much information as I can on how I can be successful in that. What can I take away? What can I learn? And one of the critical things I think is editing. If for those of you who listened to the episode with Josh Heath about the Storyteller's Vault, Josh was very adamant about you need an editor. You absolutely 100% need an editor to be successful in writing. And so that kind of leads to my first question, Dixie, is, like, what exactly does an editor do for World of Darkness, like books? And like, what's a day in the life of an editor? Like for those who want to know what an editor does when it comes to these books that we all love.
You're asking about a day in the life. I mean, it's, roll out of bed, get coffee, go to the computer, be at the computer all day.
Yes.
Yeah, it's exactly what everybody wants to do. No, so when I edit for World of Darkness, Chronicle of Darkness, whatever, obviously I'm looking at grammar. We have an internal style guide that we use that is, also you can use the Chicago Manual of Style. We have some of our own terms, obviously. So one of the big things with editing gaming books, as opposed to just editing novels, is the terminology, because there are, I'm constantly having to reference either wikis or old books or something and go, was this capitalized? Are we going to keep this capitalized? I don't know. Because for instance, the term clan is capitalized in Vampire the Masquerade and it's lowercase in Vampire the Requiem. And so depending on what I'm working on, I have to really like switch my brain and remember what I'm doing. I was editing Scion and Trinity and stuff recently, which use our new story path system. And one of the things that I had to do with that was I found at least one instance where somebody had written storyteller instead of story guide. And you have to actually like really know what you're looking for. But mostly, I mean, I sit there, I turn on track changes in Word, and I read the book, and I go through, and I switch things and change things, and I occasionally make comments and suggestions, like, I don't really understand this mechanic, I don't really understand this sentence, Some editors, when you're editing for novels, when you're editing more for content, they'll do more like content and continuity. So, like, if you're a novel editor, you might kind of make comments like, hey, this guy was in this room a second ago, and suddenly he's magically here, like, how did that happen? Because maybe the writer, didn't pick up that they forgot to transition the scene properly. I don't have to do that as much with what we do because fiction is such a small part of most of the gaming books. But that is something that I still look at is, continuity. Like if they say in one section that such and such a thing happened in 1697, and then later they say it happened in the 18th century, I'm kind of like, wait, that's not what you said. But yeah, I mean, it's not very exciting, honestly.
Oh, don't rob yourself of that. I think it is badass. I think it's awesome and exciting.
It's important, but it's not. I'm not creating the worlds that everybody's playing in. I'm just trying to streamline them.
Well, I'd beg to differ because I would almost look at like building a house. You know what I mean? Like I would say the people who do the foundation and who build like the frame of the house may be, you know what I mean, have more of an important task. I don't want to say important, that's the wrong connotation, but do like the majority of the work, but you still have to have electricians and plumbers and you know what I mean?
Totally.
People who add their touches. So yeah, I mean, you are helping create the finished product that
I'm I am not saying that, like I said, I'm not saying that editing isn't important at all.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that it is, it's what it sounds like. I'm going through, I'm checking grammar, I'm checking spelling. I'm occasionally glaring at my computer because someone didn't use automatic spell check and missed some really silly things.
Oh.
If you looked at my personal dictionary on my Microsoft Word, though, it's hilarious because there's so many terms that just aren't real words that I've had to throw in there. Like my dictionary, when I first started working on stuff, it's like, what's a Malkavian? And I'm like, well, it's a real word. Shut up. Like, just constantly, adding words to my dictionary so that I don't have to look at a million red lines under things while I'm reading. And also that way, if it's spelled wrong, it pops out. Like if somebody accidentally writes the wrong, misspells, Zmichi or whatever, which I know everybody says differently, but whatever. But if somebody accidentally like misspells that, it does pop up then because I've got the actual word in my dictionary.
Nice. Now you mentioned something. I'd like to expand on something that you mentioned. So you were mentioning like continuity, like in the fiction. Which, by the way, the fiction and like in the books is what pulled me into the world. You know what I mean? Like the little especially like the. Anyways, I digress. But the intros to like the revised Clan books back in the day, like really pulled me.
Are amazing. I'm a really big fan actually of the Vampire the Requiem Clan books, just because they're beautiful. Like if you haven't read through the like Deva book, it's gorgeous.
I have a dark secret. It's like I only played like Vampire the Masquerade for like a year and a half back in like 2000, and then I just like fell off the grid with it, and I didn't pick it up until like a couple years ago. So Requiem is on my list of games to own and read again one day. But that came out like in that blackout era where I wasn't like involved. So like I hear so many good things about Requiem and all the the awesome fiction and the system.
I didn't play much from probably 05 to 2015 or so. I just didn't have a group, so I completely understand that. Like during all the time I was hanging out with like Rose Bailey and some of the White Wolf kids, I was not really playing the games. Like if we got together to play games, we were not playing White Wolf products because everybody worked for White Wolf and they didn't want to play their own games.
Yeah, I feel you. Yeah, like working at a fast food place and having to eat the food. Ugh. But
exactly.
So I was gonna ask about the continuity. So like you edit track changes and you talk about the stories and everything like in the books, but do you also as an editor keep track of the expansive continuity that's like in these games, like from past books and past editions? And if a writer maybe mistakes, is thinking of like a second edition of a game or a first edition, and you know what I mean, like do you track that also?
On some level, it's not like it's all in my head or anything. I haven't, memorized the Vampire the Masquerade meta plot, which I think Matthew Dawkins has, and it's terrifying to me. But when I was editing Beckett's Jihad Diary, for instance, because Beckett's Jihad Diary is 98% meta plot and story hooks, I did a lot of referencing with that one, whether I was referencing older books or whether I was even just on the White Wolf wiki, which is actually super helpful sometimes. Because I would see this character and be like, okay, who is this character? Were they actually in Rome in the 10th century? Let me find out from past editions, what this person's up to. And with newer stuff, I do that too. Like I cross-reference old books all the time. One of the things that you get access to when you work for the company is the PDF vault of everything White Wolf ever published.
I'm so jealous. I'm just like that's so awesome, man.
Which I mean, I use entirely for cross-referencing. Like I was editing a Mage 20th edition product the other day, and I definitely had to go and pull the Mage 20 PDF and start like control Fing to make sure that things were capitalized properly,
Oh my God. I just finished Mage 20th. Awesome fucking book, but holy shit.
All 700 pages of it.
Fuck. Yeah. I love it. I mean, like literally, like I love that book, but it is a labor of love, especially when you get past like the first third of the book into the system mechanics, you know what I mean? But totally. Such a great book. Like Ricardo knocked it out of the park, and his team like knocked it out of the park. And please tell me the book you're editing, was that the Book of the Fallen from Mage 20th?
No, that one's being worked on. I was doing Gods and Monsters, which if you look at our updates, that I think probably just moved to layout from editing. So
that's so awesome. Yeah, Mage 20th is, and that's got to be a challenge. I mean, because it's such a vast system and just such a beautiful system. I really love that book. So props to Onyx Path. I finally got around because I tried to read it before and I got a quarter way in and I got distracted with another book or whatever. And then finally I'm like, I am going to pick it up again, and I'm going to sit down. I'm going to read it. And shout outs to Andrew of our group. He's a huge Mage 20th fan, so I'm glad I did. So that's really awesome.
Yeah, if you look at our 20th anniversary editions, Mage is definitely like almost twice the size of all the other ones. And it's just because there's so much in Mage. There's so much you can do with it. It's definitely like it's a beautiful book. It's obviously like you said, it's a labor of love. Phil loves that project. He loves working on it, but it's definitely just a giant book. I think one of my friends called it his home defense book. Like that is the book you grab to hit somebody over the head if you've got like an intruder or something.
Yeah, I'm like looking back at my bookshelf at my copy of it, and I remember like I would sit there and read it, and I wouldn't want to like crack the binding all the way open,
Right.
because I didn't want to like to damage it. So like I would sit there and I'd have like it resting on my thigh while I'm sitting on my couch, and I'd kind of like have to turn it to the the page
Yeah.
I'm reading, and I just felt like I was doing a great forearm workout with it. You know what I mean? Like I'm sitting there like, yeah, I'm getting stronger, like flexing my forearms, but it's a great book. I'm really excited to read the other ones. So that's really awesome, man. And it's a great book. So it was funny. The other day I was looking at your Twitter and I saw your post about Anne Rice, about where she said that she didn't need an editor after she did, I think it was Queen the Damned, right? No, after Queen the Damned, she
After
decided
Queen the
to do it.
Damned. Yeah, because her editor was hurting her feelings.
Oh yeah. Like we had a side discussion about Miss Rice, and I don't want to disparage people, but that kind of is par for the course. But another book I was thinking about too when I read that tweet, and we actually did a Brian book club about it, was Brandon Carrion's or Brandon Dan Simmons Carrion Comfort book, which is, for those of you who don't know, it's like again, you guys can check out the Brian book club where I talk about taking horror books and how you can use them to inspire World of Darkness characters in games or whatever. But Carrion Comfort's like a book about like I guess to be cheap, like psychic vampires, but they're humans, but they can live a little longer and they feed off like negative energy. So they kind of like manipulate, and they can kind of like use dominate, almost like a version of dominate. So they'll manipulate events to cause these huge catastrophes, and then they'll like feed off the negative psychic energy of them. And it's kind of a cool concept. And it was a book that was recommended to me. So I read it about like 7 months ago, and I read like the 20th anniversary edition of it. And in the intro, Dan Simmons is writing like how or Dan Simmons, sorry, is writing about how this was like his baby, how like this is the book that like he quit his teaching job. You know what I mean? He put all this effort into it, and he was kind of like going off about like this editor that he had, because this book was written like I believe in 1990 or 89, when paperback horror novels were just being thrown into stores, just like everyone was writing one. And he was like kind of like coming across butthurt like about this editor and how he decided to edit it himself. And so now you read the intro, you think, okay, yeah, maybe he's right. So I read this book, and like I gave it like a 3 out of 5 stars. And there's a point when I was reading that book, I'm like, dude, you should have called that editor up, man. Because I'm like, this book is like, just there's parts of it where it's good and parts where you're like, this is so boring. It's just dragging.
I can't stress that enough. Like, you can't edit your own work. I wrote a short piece for one of our books recently that's upcoming, and like it's 1,800 words. And when I looked back at it after not having looked at it for 8 months, I found typos. And like, I'm an editor. This is my job. But you can't edit your own work because you look at it so much, and you reread it and whatever. I mean, there are some of our writers that give me super, super clean copy, and that's great, but I'm still going to find typos. I'm still going to find problems. Eddie Webb is a really good example of that, because, he wrote Pugmire over the course of a couple years, and it was super clean for the most part. I still found a few typos, and I still miss typos because I'm not perfect either. Like that's why we have a proofing process after it's been edited. That's why with all of our Kickstarter books and a lot of our other books, we go through the errata thread section of the process where we release the PDF to backers, and inevitably they'll point out just pages of stuff, because when I'm working on a book that's 300,000 words long, I'm probably going to miss things. And it happens. And sometimes it's my fault. Sometimes it's something that happened post-editing, but like, no one's perfect. And you cannot edit your own work. I don't care how clean of a writer you are. Because like I said, once once you've been in that world for so long and you've written and rewritten and this, that, and the other, like there are things that you've missed. And especially with gaming books, because we're usually have, 8 to 10 authors on a book, and we're coming at it, and maybe you moved a section to here, but you forgot to delete it elsewhere. Or maybe you tried to rewrite something, but you didn't quite finish and you haven't gone back to it since then. Like it happens.
Yeah, definitely. You kind of answered what was going to be my next question there about like why writers should have editors. You need a new clean set of eyes on there. I mean, like we're talking about offline about some of our favorite authors. I mentioned like Stephen King is like one of my favorite authors, and for the a lot of anyone's probably heard he sometimes writes huge friggin' books, and
Yeah.
he is always quick to thank his editors, like always gives them credit. You know what I mean? For like really like helping him make his books as good as they are.
Yeah. Well, the entire reason I started thinking I could do this is because I was reading a book series many years ago. I'm not going to call out any names, but it was a series I'd been reading for a while. New York Times bestselling author, like constant, all of the books were bestsellers, and I've had a typo here and there, and I was like, whatever, but I was finding the typos mostly in the mass market editions, which meant that it had been through 1 or 2 editions at that point, and that kind of bothered me. And then I got to one of the books, I forgot which book it was, but there was a chapter where one of the main characters' names was misspelled for the whole chapter. And then after that, it was back to normal. Like, I thought they had brought in a new character at one point. I was like, oh, is this a new character with the same name? That's really weird. But it wasn't. It was just it was a typo, and it was a typo that continued through the whole chapter. And I'm kind of like, well, you should get a better editor. Like, what's wrong with you?
Exactly. Yeah. Because I mean, and I don't want to sound like, again, I don't want to sound pretentious, but like we're all paying money for these goods. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
if you are giving your money to this publishing company, and I understand there's some unforeseen consequences that will happen, but like you said, this is a thing that went through 2-3 layers of, different versions of the book, where it could have been caught. It could have been brought out that the whole chapter, the main character's name is spelled wrong.
Yeah.
And that right there speaks to me on a principle level that like someone in the chain didn't care. They just want your money, and you know what I mean? They're going to throw it out there and you're going to buy it anyways. That's at least the conclusion I come to in my.
Well, I mean, it could be a lot of things. It could be that the author rewrote that one chapter and sent it in to replace it last minute. Like there's a lot of reasons that it could happen, but like everything needs to go through editing. One of the things that a lot of them like now about having me in house is that I not the Monday meeting notes, so don't blame me for that if anything's ever typoed. But for a lot of our blog posts, I actually edit those too, because they'll throw them at me and be like, hey, can you look at this? And for like the brochure that we hand out at Gen Con and stuff, like they threw me the text for that, and we're like, hey, can you edit this? I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. Takes 5 seconds.
That's so awesome. I like to hear that. It's just cool to hear that, like that Onyx Path is putting that much, you know what I mean, with these brochures and like you said, the blog posts and everything like that. That there's a process, man. It's really cool. It's like the peanut butter factory, man. I absolutely love it. So what if someone wanted to become an editor, like someone's listening and like, man, I really love that, or I think I have because there's a difference, right, between I'm catching typos in this book that I'm reading, you know what I mean, like you did, to like getting to where in life you're doing that for a living. So what path in life, or what steps should people take if they want to become an editor? Like what are there any examples you can give, or any advice you can give on what someone should do?
I mean, it's different for everybody. Like, obviously I've only walked my own path, which there's a lot of just putting yourself out there that's important. I started by editing my college newspaper when I was in college. I pretty much walked into the office of the newspaper and said, hi, I'd like to copy edit your newspaper. And they kind of went, oh, we don't have one of those. I've been doing it myself. Okay, you have a job. And I copy edited the college newspaper for 2 years. And then I did some free work for friends. I would throw myself out there and be like, hey, I know that you're writing a self-published novel. Like, I don't recommend working for free if you can help it, obviously. But like, it's not bad to get some practice in. Like, if you think about it as practice and not as I'm working for free, it is nice just to kind of get your foot in the door with places. If you want to edit for role-playing game books specifically, the best thing I can say is to network. Like, I got a lot more work after I started going to Gen Con and handing out cards to people. I work for Fantasy Flight still as freelance. I've done work for Burning Wheel. I've done a lot of work for Seventh Sphere Publishing, who does Open Legend. I still freelance on the side, like outside of Onyx Path. I still do work in the evenings and weekends that isn't my Onyx Path work. Uh, and yeah, just doing that. Like, unfortunately, not everybody can go the route I did because I did know Rose. Like, knowing Rose Bailey was kind of part of it because I was talking to her. We hadn't talked in a few years, and I kind of mentioned I'd been doing this, and she was like, "Oh, well, I actually could use another editor." And I was like, "Okay." And she gave me a small project, and they liked my work. But with a lot of freelance work, I mean, pretty much any freelance work, it really is about, just like hustle, as my friend Meredith Gerber puts it. Like, you've got to put yourself out there, whether it's by building a website and contacting potential clients, or getting involved in, the convention scene, or getting involved with a specific company and then branching out from there. There are always smaller companies that are looking for editing work, and maybe they won't pay as much as some of the bigger companies, but getting your foot in the door and being able to build a resume. Like, I've had to cut books off my resume at this point because I've been working for Onyx Path for 3 years. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to take all the least impressive stuff off here, because there's so much I've been doing.
That's awesome, man. I like to hear that. That's cool.
Yeah. But I mean, to be perfectly honest, there was a period of time where I was working 2 jobs and freelancing on the side. Like, it's not, you've got to want to do it on some level. Like, you can't just be like, I'm going to edit books and then just sit back and hope that people will come to you. Like, you have to go to people. And I mean, if anybody ever wants to reach out to me on Twitter and say like, hey, I need projects, like, there's this weird kind of internal network in the RPG industry where a lot of us don't hire from the outside. We'll kind of go to other companies that we know, because a lot of us are all friends. And we'll be like, hey, do you have any editors? Because I need somebody. Like, the whole reason I got work with Fantasy Flight was because one of my friends introduced me to them. And it was like, this is Dixie. She's a really good editor. And I was like, oh, hi. If you ever need any work, let me know. And now I've been editing, Star Wars books, which is super cool.
That is really awesome. And I like you make a very good point. And I'm kind of 2 things you said there that I would like to dig into a little bit, but you make one really good point. I actually see that also on what I use the term content creator for people who do like actual plays and podcasts. I don't mean
totally.
People who write, so when I say content creator, that's what I mean. But like, I see a lot of people who want to be content creators, do podcasts, actual plays, or whatever. And I think some of them in their head, and this isn't meant to insult anyone at all, what I'm saying, I just think they see something like Critical Role and they think, oh, I just need to do this and it's just gonna, you know what I mean? I'm gonna get followers and people are gonna watch. And I don't think people realize you got to put in work, man. You got to put in work when it comes to any goal that you have on life. Like you said, with you with editing, you got to go out there and put your name out there. Network. I like how you said you had business cards. I know an actual content creator, Chaz from Caffeinated Conquest, who was doing that at Gen Con too. You know what I mean? Here's my card. I try to do that on social media. I'm always trying to find ways to like get my stuff out there, because I hate to say this, folks, and Dixie, you attest to this, saying you worked 2 jobs, you know what I mean, before you were able to do your dream job here, is if you sit there and expect anything in life to be handed to you like that, it's not going to happen. A lot of opportunities in life are a combination of really hard work, like Dixie said, and also taking advantage of the right opportunity, like Dixie said, when Rose, when she gave you that, opportunity to do it, and so, but if you didn't have, I feel like if you didn't, and you mentioned that you were given the opportunity, and that's true, but also, a lot of that work, I'm sure, that you put in there was basically put that faith in Rose to give you that, when she offered you that.
Yeah. And then, like, I mean, when I did the Demon Translation Guide, I was very, very hardcore and nitpicky about everything, and kind of like tried to put my best foot forward, because I was like, this is my first project. She's giving me a chance. It was a 30,000 word project. And most of the books I work on now are more like 100,000, 200,000 words. So, but yeah, so she gave it to me, and then I proved myself, I guess. And so, like, if people give you a shot, that's great. I mean, come go to Gen Con, go to PAX Unplugged, walk around, talk to companies, hand out cards, tell them that you've done this project or that project. If you know any of the people from like Storyteller's Vault or Slurician Vault, or any of the other or Canis Minor is the other one, any of our, like, personal content creators, I'm totally forgetting community content. That's the phrase.
Yeah.
If you know anyone who's writing something for that, maybe they're writing a 10,000 word piece, like, maybe offer to throw it an edit and tell them to give you a credit in the book. And then once you've done that a couple times, like I said, I don't ever want to advocate for freelancers working for free. But like I said, if you consider it practice and like a way to get your foot in the door, I'm not saying start editing, 200,000 word novels for free. That's ridiculous. But if you know someone who's writing a short story or who's even working on a blog, like I've talked to folks on blogs who've talked about me maybe editing for them. It hasn't happened, but like I've been willing to do it. I'm like, yeah, sure. Like it's a blog, throw me $5-10 a post, whatever. It's gonna take me an hour to do it. I'm not too worried. And then like, just start practicing. Get out there.
That's awesome. And the second point I want to bring up, and you mentioned it again, is nothing drive. I'm trying to think of a way to say this tactfully without like getting too angry about it, but nothing drives me nuts. And I don't have to deal with this at all. Like what we do as fans, like running the channel. We're like a nonprofit channel, to be honest with you. So we don't even like monetize or anything like that, or have a Patreon. But nothing drives me fucking nuts more than seeing someone on social media trying to take advantage of someone who does gaming for a professional or something involved in the game scene professionally, editor, writer, artists, all that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, oh, hey, can you just hook me up? You know what I mean? Could you just, I'll give you a shot. Like, dude, these are people who have worked hard, especially if they're already professional. Like you said, if it's someone just trying to build their chops a little bit, yeah, fine. But if you're a professional freelancer or someone, don't go up to them. That's disrespectful. You know what I mean? Like, I would never dream of going up to someone like Dixie or a writer or artist in the industry and be like, oh, can't you just hook me up? I'll throw your name on my video or what to give you a shout out. Like, no, because they have put in work to get that reputation to where I feel I need to ask them of something. So if I'm going to ask them of something, I'm going to damn well pay them for their services because they put in that work for there. And anything other than that is just 100% disrespectful. I feel.
Pay your editors, pay your artists, pay whatever. Yeah. If you're putting out a small, personally published game on like Drive-Thru RPG or whatever. I have a lot of friends who do that. Rose Bailey is still doing a lot of her work through Patreon. But even then, when she has other artists or layout people or writers on her books, like she pays them. Yeah. And whether she's paying them out of profits from the book or whether she's paying them out of her own pocket, like that's something you should think of when you're trying to self-publish is you should have some of your budget going to the other people that are working with you. Maybe it's not a lot. Maybe you wrote, like I said, like a 5,000 word thing and you're throwing $40 at somebody to edit it. Like that's not actually that far off from an actual editing rate. Like I've worked for discounted rates for friends. I edited Jakob Klunder's first Storyteller's Vault submission for free. Because he was one of the first people to put something up on Storyteller's Vault, and I was like, I work for the company. I'll do it for you, no problem. He's been a friend of mine for 10 years, so not a big deal. But like, maybe you can find someone to do that, but maybe you can't. Maybe you have a friend that wants to get into editing, and like you can work something out with them. Maybe you buy them beer at the next convention you go to. Whatever.
Beer, yes.
Well, I mean, I've had clients that I've worked with. I've been doing some work with Chris Spivey from Darker Hue Studios, and he's like, I owe you a drink at Gen Con. I'm like, you don't because you paid me, but if you want to hang out, like I'm there. Like, what? So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. So final question, and I got to take advantage of this situation, but at least I'm not asking you to do something for free. What is there any insider juicy info you can give us fans about things that are coming up on Onyx Path's plate that may not be out and completely in the known yet, or things we could look forward to?
I can't talk too much about anything that isn't like already on the blog or known. I will say that we have a couple of things we're going to be announcing at Gen Con. Just like last year, we announced Dystopia Rising at Gen Con. Or no, we announced that at Midwinter. We announced at Gen Con. I don't know. Everything blends together.
Yeah.
But like, we always try to announce something at conventions, and we definitely got something that I think is really cool coming up that I was at a meeting about the other day. So that's fun. I know that we just did announce for Exalted. We just had a blog that announced like the next several books we're working on. We've got a great team on Exalted right now. The Dragon Blooded Kickstarter went really, really well. I think the book, because we've been doing this new model where we finish the book before we kickstart it, pretty much. Like it's not in layout usually, but the text is always done by the time we hit Kickstarter. And so that means that we've been releasing the text of the books with the Kickstarter in like chunks. So people can see the whole book and kind of, have some faith that we have a book done. Just because, like every company, we've had issues with like late Kickstarters and stuff. So we're trying to really ameliorate that. So we're working on Lunar's Fangs of the Gate right now, which is going to be the next slot book. So you can play something besides Solars and Dragon Blooded, which is exciting. We announced a couple of setting books, so that's really fun. But like I said, unfortunately, a lot of the stuff that is insider knowledge I can't really talk about.
I figured, but yeah, people would string me up if I didn't ask, you know what I mean? So
yeah, well, I mean, I can tell you that I've seen the proofs recently for Wraith 20 and for Scion Origin, and they're really, really pretty. And I'm very excited about them. I saw the proof for Monarchies of Mal, which is of course the companion game to Pugmire, the cat game. And that's a really, really good book. I'm very excited about that one because when we released Pugmire, so many people were just like, why can't we play cats? And we were like, fine, we're working on it. God, you'll get your cat book.
Next gonna be goldfish. I can't think of any. That it was funny because it took me literally like a week before I figured out the monarchies of Mao, and I'm like, oh, meow, I get it now. like
well,
you just
Mao is also a breed of cat, and so
is it? I did not know that. Oh, I didn't know that.
The Egyptian Mao is a breed of cat, and so Maos are like they're the house that is in charge of all the monarchies currently because they're all like separate kingdoms that kind of have like a parliament thing going on. So yeah, House Mao is the one in charge right now, which is kind of what we called it that. We actually try really hard not to make silly like cat and dog jokes in Pugmire because we figure that the players will do that. It's actually one of the things that's like in the style guide. And Eddie wrote a post in the blog recently that was like, why Pugmire is not a silly dog game. And like all the players are going to bring the puns. Like when you run a game of Pugmire, a game of Monarchies, it's just constant puns for the most part. But the game itself, if you read it, is actually written fairly seriously. And that's on purpose. It's supposed to evoke nostalgia, it's supposed to evoke various, feelings that people might have about their pets, but it's also supposed to be a fun fantasy dog game. So, yeah.
That's rad. That's really cool. And I like what you said about the, I didn't know that about the recent Kickstarters, like about like them being written before. I take it Changeling Second Ed was the same way because I've been seeing like things have been coming out about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That we actually had the text for that at Gen Con last year for people that came by the booth to look at. And Megan Fitzgerald, who is the developer on that now, was running games. And then we kickstarted it right after Gen Con. So like we were talking about it a lot at Gen Con and kind of going like, hey, we're doing the Kickstarter for this soon. But look, you can read it right now if you want. Like it's already edited, it's done. Like here's the text. So like I got the edited text back to them, I think like 4 days before Gen Con.
Oh wow. Skin your teeth.
Yeah. So they could print it out and put it in a binder and bring it in. Yeah. So
I'm a huge fan of Changing the Lost. We got a game currently going on with it and it's love the setting, so it's really cool.
Lost 2E is amazing. Like I'm super, super happy with it. The work that Megan and Rose and everybody else that wrote on it put in is really great. I've been seeing some of the art coming back from approvals, and that's really cool. I think it's being proofed right now, so it's like in that stage where Megan's going through the PDF and making sure everything's correct, and making sure it looks right. And then after that, we go to the backer proof, and then we go to like actual print proof so that Mike and Rich can look at it and make sure that everything is not too dark and not too, just make sure it looks right.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So thank you for giving us some insight into editing and for, like I said, you writers who are potential writers or current writers or people who want to be editors who are listening, take this away. And also, like we said, Dixie's on Twitter. So we'll have her info in the description of the video and the podcast. So you guys can hit her up on Twitter, I'm sure, and ask her. She has questions. Don't ask for free work. Do not ask for free work. I'm just saying, don't do that. We're going to take our second break, and then when we come back, I'll be talking about things that we have coming up, so stick around.
High Level Games, the industry's first choice in taking your games to the next level. We are a podcast blog and new media network at highlevelgames.ca. We have blog posts about all of your favorite games going up 5 days a week, and a podcasting network with actual plays and shows that discuss role-playing games, with more rolling out all the time. We are on iTunes, Twitch, and YouTube. Find out more information at highlevelgames.ca, a site that certainly isn't controlled by a shadowy board of directors of otherworldly origin. That's highlevelgames.ca.
Please, help. They're coming.
All right, welcome back. So this is the segment where I normally at first shamelessly plug my stuff, but I just kind of want to take a moment real quick to talk about a couple things before I talk about what's coming up on our schedule. So one thing that I've really tried to do, and some of you may have seen that like a Twitter post I made recently, but I guess I'm going to try to summarize it here. But what I've really been trying to do with myself as a content creator is help share and promote other content creators who are on the scene. I'll try to share them on Twitter, on social media. But one of the things that when I say we, I mean me and the other admins of the Facebook group, the White Wolf RPG gameplay and media page. The reason that I started that and the admin started it is because we wanted to make like a forum, like a community where content creators could share their stuff and people could view it, but where content creators could share their stuff and not have to deal with some of the toxicity that we find just in life in general. I'm not trying to like narrow it down to like the tabletop RPG community or anything like that, but it still exists and it's still there, and I just really want to stress to people who may be listening to this, who want to find like other actual plays or other podcasts or other stuff like that. Stop on by the White Wolf RPG gameplay and media Facebook group. I mean, and the reason I'm bringing it up, and I'll get to that, but there are tons. We have like literally tons of stuff that's been shared on there for the last year and a half. But one of the reasons I'm bringing it up now is Facebook created this new feature for groups where you can like tag, they call it topics, but it's pretty much tagging. You could tag a post with different topics, and then you can click on the topic. Like they'll have the list of the topics and you click on there and they'll show you every post that's been tagged with that topic. And so we now have been able to, we didn't have this before, where we can tag posts. And so like, we'll tag like if it's like an actual play, and if it's on YouTube, and if it's like Vampire the Masquerade, we can tag all three. So people who want to view content can go click on like, oh, I want to see what Vampire the Masquerade media there is. And they can click on there and they can find it. And they'll show you all the posts that have been tagged on there. Now, I've recently undertaken a project where I'm trying to go back and tag all of the posts that have been posted on the group for like the last year and a half that we've been around. I think I was in like October of 2017 before I took a break on Friday, because it's like really like, oh, like you scroll down with your mouse and you got to wait for Facebook to load the post, and then you got to click on there and tag, and it's just like it's not a quick process. But my goal
does not sound like fun.
Dude, no, not at all. It brings back memories when you see like, oh, hey, I remember that person sharing that Mummy the Cursed gameplay or what, like the small games,
Right.
And it's like, but yes, it's not easy and it's not fun. And the reason that I'm doing it though is hopefully at the end for people who go on there who are members who want to find stuff, it's easier to find, and also for the content creators who may have posted stuff a while ago, their stuff can be easily found. And I think as of now, we like, for example, like we have like 500 different posts with like actual plays, and like there's a lot of stuff that has been shared on that page. So I just wanted to take a moment to like really thank the content creators who have gone on there and the people who have gone there. Like we're over like 2,000 members now on the page, which blew our mind, because I remember when Slavic and I, who were the two people who originally started it, I remember I was like telling him, I'm like, we should start this Facebook group. He's like, yeah. And at first it was just me sharing stuff. Like I'd go like, hey, I found this on YouTube. Hey, I found this on YouTube, like different actual plays. Or I found this podcast. And I remember I went and took a nap, like the second day we started, was like on a Sunday. I went to go take like a lazy old man nap, and I woke up and Slavic, who lives in the Czech Republic, was like, dude, Matthew Dawkins joined. And this is when we only had like 70 people in our group, you know what I mean? And it was like, I was like, oh shit, man. It was like this big ordeal. We had like 100 people, and we're like, oh fuck. And now we got like 2,000 people. We got like 4 other admins, and we like are constantly have people like sharing stuff. And I'm constantly going out there, and I'm like looking on, like once a week, I'll look on YouTube and I'll look on Twitter, different, search strings for different games. And if I see a content creator, I'll be like, hey, come on by, share your stuff. You know what I mean? And I'm always trying to promote it. So what's the point of me bringing this up? Point of me bringing this up is a high tide. What's the term? A high tide rises all ships, right? And what I'm saying is, instead of like, if you're a content creator or someone involved in the scene, don't try to like shit on people, hold people down. If you see people that are trying to get to where you're at, or you see people who have similar goals, help raise them up. I'm not one of these people who believe that like there's only a limited space for like podcasts and actual plays, like, no, there's infinite space, you know what I mean? And there's space for everyone to share the stuff and everyone to grow. So I have made it my goal with Twin Cities by Night, and I've clear this with the rest of the crew, like on our Twitter page every day, Monday through Friday, because on the weekends I'm doing other real world stuff. But like I am gonna take one specific content creator, and I'm gonna tell like our followers about them, and I'm gonna like share them and say why people should check them out, you know. And I suggest others do that too. Just like I said, help each other out. And I just wanted something happened. I'm not going to get into what happened earlier this week, but something happened that really made me like stop and think and kind of like be like, instead of reacting to something negative that happened to me, it actually motivated me to like want to even do more than I'm doing to help promote others. So I'm just kind of like, I guess, saying this to the ether and hoping that other content creators listen, and maybe you can have the same reaction, help others out too. So like I said, we're all in it. We all love these games, and we should be trying to help each other out. So now this is where I get into the shameless plug and promotion of our stuff. Next Sunday, we have our 4th session of Twin Cities by Night Dread, which is the 3rd story arc of our Vampire the Masquerade game set in the Twin Cities. I am fucking loving it, dude. I took a break from this game, running this game for like a year, and man, it is just going fucking great, man. It's like got that character development we had in our Chronicles of Darkness game, The Ultimate Evil, and in our Sabbat game, Wars on Fire. We're just taking like these deep dives into these characters and like the horror theme, you know. And for those of you who know, like Twin Cities by Night is more like eerie horror. It's not like, you know, edgelord horror or whatever, but it's like really like, I just feel like it's got that tone that I want. You know, the reason I named this story arc Dread is because it was inspired by Clive Barker's short story of the same name in Books of Blood that deals with fear and dread. And I'm really, you know, through the actions of the first 2 story arcs, you know, these characters who are in the story are really starting to feel that sense of dread, like things around them they can't control are happening. And I just love tapping into it. Characters are doing great. Check that out. We have a podcast version, obviously, and we have a YouTube version of that. So please check that out. Then after that, we have our Hunters Hunted 2 game that we just did the character creation session for, that Andrew's running it. By the way, Andrew, someone complimented Andrew who checked out the character creation session and said he has a soothing voice. And so if you guys like run across Andrew on social media, tell me he has a soothing voice, man. That's my new goal, because he's like, I've never been told that before. So everyone tell him that he has a soothing voice. I feel like the way that Andrew handled that character creation session for Hunters Hunted 2 was awesome. It was better than any character creation session I did, and it felt really relaxed and orchestrated. He reminded me a lot of like David Larkins from the Esoteric Order of Role Players, how they did their character creation session him and his wife did for the Neon Masquerade, Vampire the Masquerade game. Very laid back. I am super happy. I'm stoked. The characters our trip is, you know, we joke around how we're like, this is going to be our campy game, just like our Sabbat game we said was going to be our campy game, and then just ends up becoming like this deep philosophical, you know, bullshit, you know, which is great. But we're like, yeah, we're going to keep this campy. It's going to be campy. So we're going to see. I'm really excited to play my character in that. And then next we have our Changes in the Lost Vanity game, which we're on our like 7th session. I can't believe that. Love Changes in the Lost. Man, the last session, for those of you who haven't checked it out, I perhaps had like, you know, when I say disturbing, I don't mean edgelord, but like a scene with my character that just really like made me feel like my character's a huge asshole. But it was like a really intense scene about him getting glamour, and it was just like, man, it was so well done. And Adam, if you're listening, but for those of you who don't know, this is Adam's first story he's ever story told, period. And he has his love for Changeling the Lost as just like, he sold us on it, man. Like he like by far, and I am not even shitting you, Changeling the Lost is the most horrific fucking One World of Darkness, Chronicles of Darkness game ever, I feel. To me, Changeling the Lost is, because with the theme. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, we actually talked about that on one of our early podcasts, because like I think Matthew asked me which game I thought was the most hopeful, and I said Changeling the Lost, and he said I think it was the most traumatic. And it really depends on your storyteller and the chronicle that you're running, because it can be the most traumatic, terrifying, just personal horror game, but it can also be incredibly hopeful. Like, you've escaped, you're getting away, you know, there's all this stuff. And it's a really interesting game to look at, because it, like, everybody seems to approach it differently.
Oh yeah, definitely. And that's one good thing that I'm liking about the game, because like Adam is the nicest dude in the world, by the way, Adam, and I'm totally saying this. Adam's like one of those dudes who apologize for being too nice. You know what I mean? Like, sorry guys,
is he Canadian?
No. But he is from New England, so you know, you New Englanders have like H.P. Lovecraft, and I don't know if you guys have a reputation for being polite or not, but I'm just gonna yeah, new fact. But yeah, the game is, he's doing like a really brilliant job, because, you know, we each have different characters. My character is kind of like more of the I hate using the term darker, but more, you know what I mean, like dealing with the trauma side and the PTSD side of what he went through. And then we have like one character, she kind of like deals with her issues on her own, and then another more quiet introvert, and then we have like this guy who made like an ogre, you know what I mean, and he's kind of like, yeah, but like, and he doesn't have that high of IQ or whatever, but he is using this ogre to like really push forward the meta plot of his story, you know what I mean, while the other three characters were having our personal interactions and woe is me and whatever drama shit, he's using this ogre along with one NPC to like open our eyes as players to like this like huge storyline that's going on. And the ogre has no idea, obviously, in character. He's just along for the ride with this guy, you know what I mean? And he's being exposed to all this meta plot. And us other characters, we don't know any of this shit's going on, but as a player, we're viewing it. So he's really in a very, it's almost like cinematic in a way that he's doing it, and it's really entertaining. And guys, check that out. I cannot stress you enough. And just check out the game. Like, dude, like when second Ed for Changing the Lost was announced, I was just like throwing money at my computer screen. I was like, just take it, give it to me. I was just like so stoked, and I backed that shit like right away. So very awesome game. And then our next guest on the Brian Diaries is going to be Dixie's counterpart, Matthew Dawkins, who's going to be joining us. The reason I invited Matthew, and he was gracious enough to accept, was, you know, just like Dixie, Matthew was one of those people who started as a fan, and look where he's at now. You know what I mean? I almost think like Beckett's Jihad Diary is like the perfect you know what I mean, like the perfect culmination of like the work that he put into being a fan, you know, and being in the scene. For those of you who don't know, and everyone probably fucking knows listening to this, he's a gentleman gamer. He had the YouTube, he still has the YouTube channel, but he was really active on the YouTube channel, like started like 6 or 7 years ago. Matter of fact, when I got back into White Wolf, I was like trying to Google like White Wolf educational videos or whatever on YouTube,
right?
And his shit came up, you know what I mean? And this guy has literally started from like having a YouTube channel to like not only working for Onyx Path, but also working for V5, you know what I mean, and doing a lot of stuff. So I thought I would invite him over to help, you know, not so much like because you guys are covering it in the Onyx Pathcast. I said it right. I didn't say Onyx Pathcast. The Onyx Pathcast. And he kind of give tips for people who might want to write for RPGs, because he started from being a fan and he got there, you know, he got there through perseverance and work. So almost like we did with editing here, he's going to kind of show the side of, you know, of like to strengthen your chops as a writer. So very excited to have him come. Great guy, total gentleman, gentleman gamer. And I really look forward to, he is like one of the reasons that like, and I've told my story before about getting back in the Vampire Masquerade. I'm not going to repeat it, but he like, coming across this stuff was one of the reasons why the interest pulled me in again. You know what I mean? Why I got interested again. So I am indebted to him and many others in the scene. So that's what we have going on. I've had a couple people ask about the Brian Book Club. I love doing the Brian Book Club. I just I'm doing it now when I feel the urge. And a lot of the guys on our Discord will joke with me and call me a time age because I have so much shit going on. You know what I mean? And I was doing these Brian Book Club like 10-minute videos every week, but I'm just like, with the gaming every week and then doing this, you know, every week, I just like, whenever I get the urge, I'll do it. If I read a book that, you know what I mean, I like a horror book that I feel I could cover, I'll do it. So stick. And then we're going to have guest appearances too, who are going to be doing it, by the way. Brandon Carrion from Full Metal RPG is going to be doing one about the Invisibles and how that can inspire you in a mage game. And then he's going to do one on another book. I forgot the name of the book, but another book that he was going to talk about, Mage 2. Shout out to Full Metal RPG, the homie Brandon Carrion. Love you to death, man. Other than that, that is all that we have going on. You can follow us on Twitter at twin_cities_VTM. We have a Discord link in the video description and the SoundCloud description. If you happen to enjoy our podcast, please leave an iTunes review. I cannot stress enough, like I said earlier, about the Onyx Pathcast. That's twice I said it right. If you leave a review and you rate it, it helps bring it to the attention of others, and that's what we should all be trying to do, helping each other out. If you like the YouTube video, please thumbs up, would mean a lot, and subscribe. Now, before I leave, anything you want to say before we leave, Dixie?
Yeah, well, we talked a little bit about, you know, editing, how to get into that, but I cannot stress enough that if you are interested in writing for Onyx Path projects, any of them, there's 2 things you can do. One is that you can go through our submissions page. Please follow the instructions. No one ever does. It's a whole thing. But that's at, you know, theonyxpath.com. But then the other thing you can do right now, we do have the community content programs. There's Storyteller's Vault, which is run by White Wolf. They just opened up Dark Ages. They're opening up some other stuff. That's super cool. We also have the Slurician Vault, which is for Scarred Lands, which is, our module that we've had forever for D&D and Pathfinder. And then we also have Canis Minor, which is for Pugmire and Monarchies of Mal content. You can put stuff on there. People will buy them. You will make money off of them, which is cool. But also, that brings your writing to our attention. Because if we see that someone has been writing awesome Storyteller's Vault submissions, that they really grasp the tone and the feel, then we might kind of say, like, hey, do you want to actually work on one of our, core books or one of our big books? That's such an easy way to kind of get your foot in the door. And you're not writing it, putting it up there for free like fanfic. You're writing it up there. You're writing it, you're putting it up there, and people are buying it, and then you are making money off of it. So, like, we do look at that. That's part of how. I mean, Josh Heath, for instance, is working on some of our books now, and it's partially because, like, he was really active in the Fans of Pugmire group, but also he started putting up content, and we were like, oh, this guy can actually write. Like, cool. Like, let's bring him in. Because sometimes a submission might get overlooked. And if you submitted 2 years ago and you haven't heard from us and you want to submit again, like, go for it. We are here for that. That's so many people ask how they can write on our stuff. And it's like, well, I mean, that's how, like, start writing, get it in there. We're going to be doing a whole episode on Onyx Pathcast very soon about that entire thing. So I'd say you could listen to that too. You'll probably get much more insight from Eddie and Matthew than you do from me, because they've been hiring writers for a lot longer than I have. But yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Dixie Cyanide. You can follow me most places at Dixie Cyanide.
Best punk rock name ever. All right. All right, on that note, folks, leave me alone. I don't want you listening to me anymore. I want my privacy. Stay tuned again for our next episode. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it. Thank you, Dixie, for coming. You rock.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything you and Onyx Path do for the scene. All right, until next time, enjoy the rest of your day, month, whenever I see you next.
The Los Angeles metropolitan area is constantly growing and changing. The Central District is full of new buildings. The Hollywood and Wilshire districts, once far from downtown, now are part of a which spreads past Beverly Hills and out to the ocean. But why is all this going on in Los Angeles? Why is Los Angeles an exploding city?
Neon Masquerade.
The Demon's Mirror.
13 Candles.
3 chronicles running through the undead veins of the City of Angels.
The Esoteric Order of Roleplayers Actual Play Podcast invites you to drink deeply.
Go to eorpodcast.com and search the Duets tag to find out more.
Hey, do you like World of Darkness? Do you want to introduce your friends to it? But there's one problem. Nobody reads books anymore. This presents you with a problem, doesn't it? You want to get your friends into these awesome games, but they don't have the time or wherewithal to read any of them. Well, that's where Brett the Hitman comes in. Brett the Hitman, your one-stop shop on YouTube for all things related to World of Darkness. Currently in the middle of his Werewolf the Apocalypse series, which is showing tremendous growth. It's going to the moon! That's right, watch Brett the Hitman and you will get style, flair, humor, and of course some dank meme magic. Fucking normies! Brett the Hitman on YouTube at youtube.com/I love other people's misery. So watch now! If only for the dank memes. Tune in today!